Hello, welcome to FTUK's weekly catch-up live stream. Hope everything is well with you and you've had a good week in the markets. In fact, a good month in the markets because we are nearly at the end of September. Absolutely flown by, and then it'll be Christmas before you know it. So yeah, markets are particularly buoyant at the moment, and it's good to see. And we've had some very good payouts over the course of the week, and I'm going to go through those in our weekly payout review. It's been a good month at FTUK, and I hope the trading activities for yourself have gone well too. Please do subscribe to Discord. I say this every single week. It's the best place to find out everything about FTUK and what's going on, and there's always so much going on. And also as well, please do make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because our community tab on YouTube is super interesting, and there's always lots of really good information and content on there. Right, okay, let's jump in and let's have a look at what we're doing today. This is I'm going to go through the weekly payouts first, but then I want to get onto this subject, the differences between investing and gambling. Now, this is really fascinating, and it's the kind of content around speculation and trading and markets that I absolutely love, and I could talk about this for a very, very long time. And this is based off a question that somebody wrote in earlier in the week, who said that they were thinking of giving it up because they were kind of struggling on their account, and one of their family members had said, well, you're just a gambler anyway, and they didn't like that. They thought, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to take this seriously, and that sort of put them off. And so I thought, well, that's a really interesting subject, because most people don't understand it. These are massive terms that we bandy around, but do you really know the difference? Or would you be able to define it precisely? I don't know. It's an interesting subject. So I want to talk about it. So we're going to look at the differences between the terms investing and speculation and gambling and how you define them. And then I want to look at the actual subject itself and some of the historic misconceptions of how you would think gambling is different from speculation, and what are the elements that make up those definitions. And then right at the very end, I want to do a little quiz, which should be it's quite light-hearted, so nothing too challenging, but hopefully by that stage, if you didn't really understand it, maybe you'll have a better idea and at least be able to approach your prop trading over the coming weeks with a little bit of a slightly different mindset, and ultimately that's what it's all about. Right, okay, let's jump in and let's start by looking at the weekly payouts, because this has been just phenomenal for September. We have some fantastic traders. Stefano, $2,703, and this guy here as well, Jasper, absolutely outstanding, $2,340. Now, I spoke to Jasper last week on a call, and I was really hopeful that he would agree to be on YouTube, but he's from Holland, and his English wasn't, he didn't want to go onto YouTube, and that's absolutely fine. It's totally fine. But he was an amazing guy, a really good trader as well. I'm really pleased that he's with FTUK. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe I can get him to put some sort of written content together, and we can maybe get that put on some emails or something, because he had a really fascinating story and his journey in markets. But he's done particularly well with us as well, $2,340 on a 100k instant funding account, and he was really deeply drawn down by the middle of August, and he's just massively turned it around. Really well done. But his consistency score is one of the lowest we've ever seen, 14.37%. He did just absolutely phenomenally well, and his average losing trade was much bigger than his average winning trade, so his hit rate was really fantastic as well. Primarily gold, as so many people are gold traders, but it was good to have a chat with him. So yeah, if you're watching, Jasper, I'm pretty certain he's received his payout by now, so I hope everything is well with you in Holland, and thanks for your time last week. It was good to speak to you. But yeah, as you can see there, all of those guys have done fantastically well this week, $37,240 in totals. And the funded traders as well on the right hand side of your graph there. So that column there, if you've never seen this before, those are all the people that have either achieved a scale up, or they've passed their accounts and they've moved from the evaluation stage into the funded stage. And yeah, you can see how some of those guys have gone on. Now we've got at least two guys on here that are really starting to scale particularly well. Hugo, phenomenal. He's now on a level 4 from a 50k one step. That's a 400k funding balance on that one, and that's an account that basically cost, I don't know, I think it's about $399 a one step. In fact, let's just digress a little bit, and let's just jump over to the website just to have a quick check. I'm pretty certain, yeah, so from a Where's the scaling? The chart there. Yeah. So the 50K one step is only $399. So and he probably will have got a discount as well. So from that, he's managed to scale. Got the scaling program for the one step there. $400,000. Well done. Well done. That's absolutely outstanding, Hugo. It's really good to see that kind of level of commitment. And the guys that want to scale, you know, the ones that are successful at it and the ones that take it seriously, I mean, they really do go for it. So it's definitely good to see for sure. Also, as well, there's another guy on here as well that's done particularly well. This is a level 3, and this is also shows you as well. It's not necessarily the amount of money involved in the way that you scale. So if you look down the list there, at Palo R, 40K. Well done to you. That's outstanding. That's now from a 10K two-step account on a level 3. Amazing. That kind of commitment to get through that evaluation, get through that verification, and then start to scale so successfully with some payouts along the way. It just shows you what is possible when you really start taking it seriously. $1.61 million in total funding allocated across all of these traders over the course of the week as well. So yeah, it has been an absolutely phenomenal September, and that is it's nice to have that kind of group of really committed traders that really go to make up the community. So yeah, really good and well done, and I hope that it carries on in the same kind of manner for October. Right, let's start talking about investing, gambling, speculation. What is this? How does this actually work? Okay, well, if you think about it, when we talk about gambling, speculation, it's always around events, stuff that you're doing, and outcomes that you are trying to achieve. And you can see that on the graph there. You have an event. It could be anything that you're doing in life. You could be going on a road trip. You could be sitting an exam. You could be starting a business and you don't know what's going to happen. Or maybe you're trading in markets. Yeah, those are all events that you're doing, and you're trying to achieve a particular outcome. If you're going on a road trip, you're hoping you're going to get to where you want to go safely. Or if you're sitting an exam, you're hoping that you're going to get a decent pass rate as long as you've studied properly. Same in markets. If you're trading a position, you are hoping for a particular outcome, and that is that you are hoping that you are going to make some money out of the actual trade that you're doing. Okay, so one of the things that ties all of this together is uncertainty. It's uncertainty, and therefore there's usually risk involved as a consequence of that. But this is it. Most people think this is where it gets confusing, because the reason why all the differences between speculation and gambling and investing are confusing is because they all carry the same thing, and that is intention. We're all intending to do something. We're all intending to go from A to B. And that intention is what unifies all of these things. If you're gambling, you're still hoping to make money. If you're speculating, you're still hoping to make money. And therefore, that landscape, it gets very, very muddy very, very quickly. And understanding the differences between the two becomes a little bit of a challenge. So it doesn't really matter if you are gambling or you're speculating or you're investing. It's the intention with which you are engaging in that activity that unifies all that together, and it makes it much more confusing. So let's have a look. Let's have a think about some of the different elements that we could potentially use to maybe sort of like demystify that and make it a little bit clearer. Okay, well, let's think of that. Think about it in this way. Is there an edge versus luck kind of argument in this, you know, and does skill then come into it as well as an edge and luck? Well, okay, if you think of like something like a casino is what you would traditionally consider to be a gambler's environment. It's all about gambling. Yeah, it takes no effort. It's just about gambling, and we all know that the casino always wins. Gamblers over the long term in a casino will always lose, and therefore that is considered gambling. But that doesn't actually quite sort of define what gambling is it? There's a guy that you should research called Edward Thorpe, and he was this is a long time ago. I think he's in one of the Market Wizard books, but I might be wrong about that. But he went into blackjack and into casinos and stuff like that, and he was just phenomenally successful. And then he took that methodology and applied it to financial markets. Well, he was in a gambling environment, so what was he? Was he lucky? I don't think so. Yeah. So the element of luck just in a casino, yes, you can gamble in a casino, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are that is how you would define what gambling is. Because if it was, then Edward Thorpe wouldn't have been as successful as he was. So therefore, traders must create an edge through strategy, discipline, and through risk control. Well, is it about an edge? Strategy and discipline? Well, kind of, but it's not quite precise enough. It doesn't actually give us some way of quantifying it correctly. What about risk management? Would that be the way to think about it? Kind of maybe, but traders and can survive the long term, and gamblers, they'd be people that would bust. And if you're trading, you'd be looking to position size properly. You'd be looking to use stop losses, and then you would be looking to diversify your trading, maybe across a range of different assets as well. There's different ways you can do it. Versus, if you are a gambler, maybe you are someone that you have a particular amount of money that you can apply to a particular activity, but it then it falls apart very, very quickly, or you lose all your money fast if you don't have any sort of form of risk control. Yeah, but you can do that in markets as well, not necessarily just like in a casino as well. So that in itself, the risk management element on its own doesn't necessarily give us the kind of detail that we need. What about emotions? Is it all about the difference between speculating and gambling or investing? The level of emotion that you have, or the amount of discipline that you have in executing against that emotion. Well, gamblers will definitely be emotional and usually chase losses. Traders can do that too, yeah? So that doesn't necessarily give us the context that we are looking for. I mean, it's useful stuff, but it doesn't help us define it. Traders themselves, they can obviously have losses, and then you can then learn from those losses if you take that feedback and actually do something with it and build it. So it's useful, but it doesn't really help us define the difference. So you can see how complicated this is in actually trying to understand what is going on. Now, what about the actual amount of time that you're doing? Is the length of time that you engage in the activity the definitive factor which defines the difference between investing or gambling or speculating? Well, no, I actually think this is the worst way of thinking about the subject, because gambling in itself, you usually be looking for pretty much an instant outcome once you've made a decision. You go into a game of roulette at a casino, and you put your money all on red, and that's it. 10 seconds later, that's it. You've got the outcome that you're looking for, and you either win or you lose. But does that mean you're gambling? So it's the speed? Well, actually, no, I don't think so, because if that was the case, then in markets, high-frequency traders would therefore be considered gamblers, but they're not. There's some of the most sophisticated participants in markets that you have. So it's not the time factor. I don't think that I think that's actually probably the one of the worst ways of trying to think of the difference between gambling and speculating. So let's look at some common misconceptions, because this is probably the icing on the cake in the confusion, which is potentially where the client wrote in at the beginning of this week and wanted to potentially give up because of this kind of common misconception of how people think about trading as being gambling. And you have that perception from the media and then also from the public as well. And what can happen is, if you are learning to trade, and this is something that happened to me, you go through this horrendous journey of years, and it's a struggle, and you're working really hard at it as well. You're really, really learning so much about the markets, the mechanics, the platforms, the instruments, how money is made, who all the people are, the fundamentals, the economics. It just goes on and on and on. And you're working at your strategy, your discipline, your psychology, all this work. And then your family member at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table or whatever it is, someone says, well, you're just a gambler then. And you think, yeah, because the word itself sort of insinuates that it takes no effort. Yeah, and you think, well, yeah, maybe I am, but I'm working really hard at it. Yeah, so that perception is very, very common. It's because it's so grey and it's so misunderstood. And then also as well, what doesn't help, what feeds back into that, is all of the online traders that do sort of like go on Instagram and go on Twitter and TikTok and stuff, and they kind of wax lyrical about this culture of YOLOing, which is the whole sort of like Wall Street bets thing as well, where you would have like traders or people that go into the prop industry, and you'll go into Trustpilot and they will complain about they've lost money so fast and that kind of thing. But on the other side of that coin, you get communities like Wall Street Bets and stuff, where you get this, and the crypto crowd as well, where you get this celebration of the YOLO culture, the gambling element of that. So you get this sort of balance between people not wanting trading and investing to be seen as gambling, but also celebrating the fact that that can be done as well at the same time. That doesn't help the perceptions that feed back into family relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, it's complicated. It is complicated. So no wonder people get confused. So this is my take on it. And this is stuff from research that I've done. But I do think that you can find a way of finding the difference between gambling and also speculation. And I think it is pretty clear, or it certainly can be. The difference between speculation and gambling is not about the intention of the participant, because we all intend to do the same thing, and that is achieve a positive outcome, make some money. It's the classification of the risk involved, not the fact that there is risk, but how we classify it. So gambling is essentially wagering money on an event that has an uncertain outcome in the hopes of winning more money, whereas speculation involves taking a calculated risk for future gain where the outcome is uncertain. So it's the classification and the calculation of the risk involved in the situation that makes the difference between someone who is speculating and somebody who is gambling. So the differences that we've talked about, it's not the intention, because it's all got intention. It's not the emotional elements, is it? Because you can be emotional when you're trading, and that can happen when you're a gambler and also when you're speculating. It's certainly not the time, because if it was about speed, then, like I said, high frequency traders would be considered gamblers, yeah. But they're far from it, yeah. So it's also not the uncertainty of the outcome as well in itself, and it's not risk in itself, or the amount of risk, whether it's low risk or high risk. It's how you measure it. It's how you classify it. It's how you quantify, calculate, and measure the risk. And that is really what makes the difference. Now, how you sort of like go about thinking about that, let me just see if I can bring up my chart on my graphic here. I always have so many buttons. There we go. This is the best way, I think, to sort of like think about that. And that is that it's essentially on a sliding scale, because the activities, they could all be pulled into the same bucket, yeah? But the way that you calculate your risk defines whether you are gambling or speculating. So someone like Edward Thorpe could obviously be trying to be a speculator in a casino because he understands what he's doing, but he's not gambling in that environment. Yeah, he's speculating. And the further that you start to go up that scale, the more towards investing you actually go, and the further you come back down that scale, the less efforts that you are putting into the calculation of that risk, the more you become a gambler. And that is why it's possible to be a gambler in markets on prop trading accounts. You can just download the account, pay your money, and just start clicking the button, yeah? But it doesn't make you a speculator. It certainly doesn't make you an investor. It could make you, it would define you as a gambler, because you're not qualifying or calculating or measuring the risks that you are taking every time you are engaging in that activity, yeah? It's the classification of risk and the depth to which it's measured. Really, really interesting. Really, really super interesting subject. I find this kind of thing fascinating to think about, because it can help you as a trader break out of a particular cycle. And it's that deconstruction which helps you move forward and actually sort of like change your patterns of behavior and actually start to get some inroads. And that's what, prop trading is all about. When you really start to dig into it, the opportunities are there, but it's how seriously you want to take it. So yeah, so if anybody asks you, that is essentially the difference. Now, what I thought we could do, this is kind of like to sort of illustrate it, and this should be completely obvious by this stage now, but what I thought we could do is go through some little questions that are sort of designed to make you think. They're not difficult, but let's just think about it like this, okay? So let's just go. There's only 5 of them, and you can see what you think in the chat as well, and see if we agree. I think we probably will, though, because most people hopefully watching the live stream will be sophisticated enough to not just be purely gamblers in the market. So someone who's all in, like poker. So a trader puts their entire account on one forex trade before a non-farm payroll event. So what is that? Is that speculation or gambling? I mean, no prizes for guessing this one, but yeah, of course that's gambling. No risk management, there's no edge. You can just jump in and just hope, and therefore you would consider that to be gambling. Second one, a systematic approach. A trader risks 1% of their account per trade following a tested strategy with a 52% win rate, which obviously would be a pretty good win rate over time. Is that speculation or is that considered gambling? No prizes for guessing again. Obviously, that is something that you would consider to be, that's more on the further up that chart, we would consider that to be speculation. A positive expectancy because it's got a 52% win rate, and then if you execute that with discipline, you would then make money over the long run, and therefore you consider that to be speculation rather than gambling. You get the idea. Not difficult, is it, when you start to think about it? What about a lottery ticket? If you buy a lottery ticket, or you buy stocks in penny stocks or that kind of thing, and you buy that and because you think that it's going to just 100x overnight, which is the crypto, the altcoin type of thing of, moon trading, where it's just going to go to the moon and you're going to be rich overnight. Speculation or gambling? Okay, there are no prizes for that one either. No data, no edge. Purely based on luck and a hunch, or maybe a recommendation from your buddy, and desperation probably throw that in there as well, and therefore you would consider that to be gambling. 100%. What about macro speculation? I'm more of a macro investor these days. Long gold based on inflation data plus some central bank commentary, and then you've got some risk parameters on your account capped at 2%. Would you consider that speculation or gambling? Absolutely not gambling. That is speculation with a thesis and some risk management. You start to pull all these elements of trading together and it starts to make sense. That's how you move from being a gambler up to being a speculator. And I think there's one more. Yep, there's one more. Chasing losses. So after 3 losing trades, doubling size to win it back, which is essentially the martingale strategy of doing things. Would you consider that to be speculation or gambling? Emotional revenge trading, that would be considered to be a gambling mindset. So there we go. Interesting subject. Hope you enjoyed that. I think there's a lot to be said about thinking about why you're sitting at the table. It's great that the markets are so the barrier to entry is so low because it enables people from all walks of life to get access to the opportunities that markets offer. But it's how seriously do you take that? And thinking about what you're doing is just as important as actually getting good at doing it. And that's something that FTUK we absolutely applaud and want for all of our traders, because it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. Right, finally, before we go, we've got an offer. We have lots of offers on the website all the time. 40%, huge 40%. That's not going to be there next week for October. Probably, it's the end of the month, so, just to put some decent offers out there. On the instant funding accounts, you get a 2% overall drawdown increase on level 1, which is just amazing. Just gives you extra room for your speculation and investing, not your gambling. On your challenge accounts as well, you get the news trading add-on thrown in as well. So it's non-farm payrolls next week, so that could be a useful thing to have in your toolbox for next Friday. 40% off. Edge 40 is the code that you need at the checkout. That's it. That's everything we've got for today. So like I said, non-farm payrolls is next Friday. Hopefully we're going to have a good partnership for that with some competitions and giveaways. So it should be a really, really good live stream next Friday. Come and join us for that. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week in the markets and we'll see you next Friday.